Hello! I'm Elaine, and I'm a tour guide in the French Quarter. I do ghost tours. And I am not going to tell you the stories that I tell on my tour, because you gotta pay for those. But if you want to hear some interesting things that have happened to me while I'm leading random drunk people around the French Quarter, I got you.
When I started recording these, I sort of planned on all of them being funny. But the problem is, not everything that happens on ghost tours and in the French Quarter is funny. So one thing that I have not talked about much is sometimes you get the guests on the tours that are objectively just too easily startled or too scared to be on a tour. Sometimes they're scared of, being in a city. Sometimes they're scared of ghosts. But the important thing is that some of them are just objectively, this is going to be too much for them. And I often don't have a lot of pity for them because I don't find standing on the side of the road listening to ghost stories scary. But I try to be kind to them because I know that not everyone has the same level of, ability to deal with fear. And so, like, one of the stories that is funny about this, I had a lady on my tour once. It was on the family friendly tour, God bless her, and she was just scared of everything. And halfway through the tour, I noticed she was wearing a shirt that matches the color that we call paint blue. And so I was explaining to her, like, oh, this is an old traditional color that you'd paint your doors and your shutters and your window frames to keep ghosts from getting into your house. So, like, you're protected because you're wearing paint blue. And she got wide-eyed and said, should I take it off? And I'm like, no, obviously not, ma'am. But a couple of days ago, I had a lady on my tour who was honestly too easily startled to be on a tour. And it went very poorly. Like, during the tour, it was fine. Like, I did notice she, like, looked a lot more afraid than anyone else at any given moment. And, like, a couple of times, and I was like, ooh. And then they saw a shadow, she'd be like, oh my God. And I'm like, it's okay. And there was one awkward moment. We were walking by a house right off of Bourbon Street that has some Halloween decorations set up. And one of the other guests had just been asking about, like, oh, when does New Orleans start decorating for Halloween? So I was like, oh, there's some Halloween decorations right there. And what this particular Halloween decoration is someone has a glass front door and they have a mannequin that they set up between the glass door and a curtain that shields, the rest of the apartment. So you just see this shadowy figure standing there, and they put a creepy mask on it. And this woman turns, and even though I literally just said, there is a Halloween decoration right there, she screamed bloody murder, and I was just like, oh, okay, she's really easily startled. But we get to the last stop, and I finish the story. And at the end, after everyone else had left, she came up to be like, oh, that was really good. Like, I got so many chills. That was wonderful. And I was going to walk them back to where we started just because they were the last guests. And, why not? Like, unless you openly annoy me or I have something to do, I will walk you back to the location that we started at. That's not a problem. But as we're walking down the street, we're just chatting about different things, and we get past Bourbon Street, and we're halfway down that block when a group of 20-something guys come running down the block towards Bourbon Street, screaming at the top of their lungs. And I may be wrong here, but I'm 90% sure what they were screaming was, he's got a gun, he's got a gun. And me and her husband both freeze and do the, like, looking around very quickly thing, because objectively, you don't want to bolt in these situations. You need to know where you're going, and you need to, like, move calmly. And so we're both looking around trying to figure out, A, which direction to go. Because these boys are running away from a car that's at the other end of the road. And if we continue going the way that we are currently going, we're heading towards that car. But if we turn around and go the opposite direction, we're moving the same way the boys were running, which means that if anyone decides to chase them, or God forbid, shoot at them, we will be in the path. So we're both really unsure which direction to go, and we're both sort of trying to feel out what is happening to know where to go. And the woman is in full panic attack. She is huddled against the door, hyperventilating, and, like, stuttering, crying. And she keeps being like, let's go, let's go, let's go. And we're like, calm, breathe, we're gonna go. We're just gonna figure out which direction to go. And, like, literally, it's like maybe 10 seconds before we're like, we're just gonna keep going straight. And we keep going, and we take maybe 2 more steps when there's a loud bang. Now, this was not a gunshot. I know this was not a gunshot. It sounded like a pipe that was thrown and probably hit a, like, signpost or something. But a loud metallic bang, needless to say, did not help this woman's panic. and she is literally barely on her feet, and like she is trying her best to run while her husband has his hand around her waist, being like, no, breathe, breathe, breathe. And like there's still shouting happening. The guys around the car have now gotten out of the car and are shouting. I'm 90% sure what happened here is that the boys that bolted either tried to steal from the car or damaged the car, and then realized that the guy in the car had a gun and decided to, nope the fuck out of this situation. And interestingly enough, a friend of mine who lives and works in the French Quarter got jumped by a group of guys and had his hat stolen that night. So it might be the same group of guys, but I don't know. All I know is I get this couple around the corner, and the woman bolts out of her husband's hands about maybe 5 feet from the corner. And when we get around the corner, she is literally huddled in the doorway of the Vampire Cafe, crouched down, hugging herself and weeping. And I'm just like, oh my God. And I'm trying to like talk calmly to her, being like, it's okay. Nothing bad happened. Like, you just need to like try to maintain calm in these situations. Breathe. It will be okay. And after a few minutes, the man looks at me and gives me that, like, we're fine. And I'm like, yeah, like, I'm leaving this up to you. You, like, have a good time. Sorry, your tour just was probably ruined for you guys. But yeah, objectively, sometimes frightening things do happen in the French Quarter. And they very rarely have anything to do with ghosts.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, and feel free to share your own experiences in the comments below.